Would you comply with the subpoena?
I will not yield to what everybody is looking for here. I would obey any subpoena that was sent to me.
So Joe Biden over the weekend trying to clarify his subpoena comments, but should he testify if it gets to that point in a Senate impeachment trial? To former Bush 43 Deputy Chief of Staff, Karl Rove, and the panel is here with us as well. We'll get to them in a second. Karl, hello, how are you?
Happy New Year, Blake.
Happy New Year to you. So there were a few things. We just played that clip from early December where Joe Biden said that he wouldn't testify. He then appeared before the Des Moines Register editorial board a couple days ago, said the same thing. That made headlines as well. And then Joe Biden then walked it back over the weekend. Why do you think he did so?
I don't know if I'd say walked it back. I think he flip-flopped it back. Yeah, look, because it was the wrong thing to say. He cannot attack the president for refusing to comply with a subpoena from Congress, even though it's legitimate. The president asserts executive privilege. But he couldn't criticize him for not doing that. For not accepting the subpoena if he's not going to accept a subpoena. So I think he did the right thing. He talked himself into a problem that he didn't need to talk himself into, and he's now talked his way out of it.
You think he'll end up having to go up to the Hill to testify? Do you think it's going to get to that point?
Well, I don't know, but I wrote in my Wall Street Journal column a week or two ago that I didn't think the Republicans should try and call him. This has nothing whatsoever to do with the articles of impeachment. It gives Hunter Biden and Joe Biden a chance to sort of become sympathetic figures. We already know that Hunter Biden did a bad thing, and we also know that Joe Biden was ignorant of the conflict, the appearance of impropriety by being the U.S. official in charge of lecturing the Ukrainians on corruption issues when his son was participating in a sleazy deal by serving on the board of a Ukrainian company that was under investigation for corruption. So we don't need to hear any more. That has nothing to do with the president's impeachment by the House, and frankly gives them a chance to Hunter Biden could say, I made a big mistake. And Joe Biden could say, my son will never do anything like that if I'm elected president. We're a country that believes in second chances, and so why give them a second chance to sort of set things right?
I want to get to your Iowa 2020 thoughts in just a second, but to bring it back to the panel real quick, Karl, I agree with Karl. I don't think it ever gets to that point. I don't think Joe Biden is going to have to testify in a Senate impeachment trial. Am I wrong?
Oh, it's been very clear that Senate leaders, Lindsey Graham, head of the Judiciary Committee, Senator McConnell, they have no stomach for bringing the Bidens up to the Senate chamber or even for taped depositions. But they have not said what Karl is saying, which is it would boomerang on the president. Right. It has nothing to do with what got him impeached.
You think they don't want to bring him up because it has nothing to do with it, or they just don't stomach bringing up one of their former own?
Both. It likely could boomerang, but they also don't want to do that to Joe Biden or anyone in his family. Hunter Biden is an addict with a very troubled life, and Mitch McConnell was at Beau Biden's funeral. This is very tough stuff for them.
Yeah, I just say that Mitch McConnell does not want a spectacle. Right. Maybe Donald Trump would like a spectacle, but I think that McConnell would like to dispose of this as quickly and painlessly as possible.
Right. Karl, 2020, Iowa, you say you've got a surprise victory potential, and that being Elizabeth Warren. She's running fourth there, according to the RealClearPolitics average right now. Yeah. You think the surprise is her eventually pulling it out there, or just overachieving?
Well, I said she's got a shot at it. This was a couple of weeks ago. She has the best organization on the ground. But let's remember, Iowa likes surprises. I mean, and Iowa also doesn't necessarily pick the eventual nominee. And, Mike Huckabee won the Republican primary in one election. Ted Cruz won it last time. Right. On the Democratic side, the surprise tends to be somebody who, like Barack Obama, is at single digits, or John Kerry at single digits in late November, early December, wins it in February. So the Democrats have a little bit more flexibility. The key thing about Iowa is I suspect we will have at least 3 and maybe 4 candidates who hit the 50% threshold. That means they get get delegates. And so relatively small pool of delegates gets separated, gets split up among candidates who get 15% in either a congressional district or statewide. And as a result, I think the result of what's going to come out of Iowa for the Democrats is a first, second, third, and fourth place where the difference in delegates matters between the top and the bottom, maybe as little as 2 or 3 or 4, separating the number 1 finisher from the number 4 finisher when it comes to the delegate total.
John, I know you absolutely love Senator Elizabeth Warren and her policies.
Well, you look at what's the Dow down 120 today. If I imagine it'd be up 120 if she won Iowa, because it would make the Democrats appear not very competitive going into the 2020 election. One thing that the markets love about Trump is that, again, he is anti-Washington, which means he can't get anything done. That's great comfort for the markets. Warren might work with Washington in ways that would scare investors.
Carl, before we go, and can we throw up that full screen again of the 4 in Iowa? Right now, it is, according to the RealClearPolitics average, Pete Buttigieg, Bernie Sanders, Joe Biden, Elizabeth Warren, in that order. You think those are the final 4, since you mentioned 4 that could sort of bunch all together? Or is there someone else? Yeah,
I do. The question is, what order are they going to be in? But no, Cory Booker, maybe Amy Klobuchar, and maybe the Northern District that borders Minnesota gets maybe more than 15%. But no, I think we're likely to see the top 4 finishers there. And look at the difference. There's a 6-point difference between the top and the bottom of that. All 4 of those would get delegates, and again, the difference in the number of delegates could be as little between the first place finisher and the fourth place finisher could be as little as 3 or 4 delegates.
Karl Rove, got to leave it there. And sunny Austin behind you today. Happy New Year. Enjoy. Hope they get a little break here.
Same to you.